Shall we talk about Peter Mandelson? The Mandelson Files, or some of them, have come out this week. 1,500 pages of documents relating to Peter Mandelson's exchanges with various government ministers. I mean, it's a bit of a strange one in the sense that there isn't much mention of Jeffrey Epstein, which is supposed to be the reason why Peter Mandelson was sacked, because the Prime Minister was shocked to learn what everyone already knew, that Mandelson had connections with Epstein that he might have downplayed in some way. But the messages do make for interesting reading, because they essentially paint a picture of what we kind of knew from the outside, which this government is totally dysfunctional.
Yes, absolutely. And that was one thing going into this, which after the humble address motion was passed and they were compelled to hand over all this information, it became clear quite quickly that anything which might be of particular interest to the Mandelson-Epstein scandal and the obviously ongoing case was just not going to be in there. I mean, the Metropolitan Police had already requested that the security vetting documents would not be included. Similarly, the Intelligence and Security Committee insisted that anything that might be prejudicial to any of the ongoing legal processes wouldn't be included. So what we've ended up with is a lot of comments which are prejudicial or certainly demeaning of various cabinet ministers talking about each other. You get a clear sense that Peter Mandelson didn't think very much of Keir Starmer, saying he lacks verve, which I think is quite a polite way of putting it in many respects.
It's a very Mandelson way of putting it, isn't it?
Very Mandelson way of putting it. Yeah, exactly. It's both catty and restrained at the same time. But also, Wes Treating is in the grips of a early midlife crisis was another. I think in relation to comments he'd made about Palestine, and one of the ones, of course, that's been most damning is done the rounds is an exchange between Pat McFadden, who I believe was then in the Cabinet Office, and Mandelson, talking about his discussions with Labour MPs and how every time it just boils down to them asking how can we tax people more so that we can give benefits to others. So have we learnt much? Not really. Have we got some new, quite spicy, embarrassing lines to throw back at this government? Absolutely. A cynic might think that maybe the opposition realised this might be the case. At the very least, they would be handled a fair amount of Tinder and not much substance. But yes, another reminder of just how riddled with infighting and bitchiness this Labour government is to layer on top of all the other much more substantively wrong things that it is doing.
I mean, I suppose the good side is that there are some people in the Labour government who are just as aware of how awful it is as the rest of us are.
I mean, hopefully now, because obviously that's what struck me the most, the text from Pat McFadden. It kind of just revealed what we already knew about Labour, that they want to just tax as much as possible so we can give to people who wake up at 12 o'clock midday and spend all their money on, God knows what. But it just kind of shows what's the point of working hard, waking up early, trying to get a promotion or set up a business to actually give something back to the economy if they're thinking, well, we're just going to tax you even more. I mean, that's not rewarding. I don't really think to ourselves, let me motivate myself just to give more money to a family on benefits so they can have a holiday that I can't, And, there are other things as well, which Thomas mentioned, it's in the files as well. In a way, it's not anything that's as spicy as I was hoping it would be.
Yeah.
I think then what they are just more attack lines that the oppositions definitely can use, because, the Pat McFadden's text is definitely something you want to see on leaflets from the Tories and Reform. That would be out a lot, because that's just, I think it summed up the Labour Party very well, pretty much. I mean, that's just the party of benefits, not the party of workers.
Yeah, and it kind of sums up the only thing that kind of binds together like quite disparate factions of the Labour Party is that they're all in favour of welfare and wouldn't dream of making any cuts to welfare, no matter how long, no matter how many young people, for instance, are languishing on welfare. I mean, Peter Mandelson was also, even before this, we knew that Peter Mandelson was famously scathing about Labour's lack of strategy for growth, and there's a bit more in these messages that comes out about that. People may have seen this interesting thing, the Labour Growth Group has essentially disbanded recently because there's not enough interest from Labour MPs. And I think one of them admitted that it was basically, they realised that because the government was saying the word growth a lot, they thought it would advance their careers to be seen as being a member of the growth group. So that's why if people are wondering why Labour MPs aren't pushing for growth maximising measures, that might be why.
Another sort of subtext to a lot of these messages is the sense that some people, at least at the top of the Labour Party, sort of do recognise where they're going wrong, but they are just in hock to those backbenchers. They do recognise that growth, surprise, surprise, is an important thing to pursue, particularly in the economic circumstances that we find ourselves in. They do recognise that it is both fiscally unsustainable and also just electoral kryptonite to continue with this completely unleashed welfarism, which is, it just fuels a sense of injustice as much as anything else amongst people who are really trying to work hard in very difficult circumstances. But because they are essentially over a barrel and trapped by the sections of the Labour Party who just think in terms of what would a quote-unquote good person do in this situation. I got into the Labour Party to help people, and that's about as far as that ideology goes. They haven't really thought about any of what might flow from that, what decisions, what might to be made, what a policy would look like. That's become crystal clear in the midst of all of this. But yes, I mean, at the very least, it reminds you in terms of how rubbish this government is, many people inside government are more in touch with the public than we might realise. They see it as well as we do. They're just required to pretend otherwise in public.